All right, it's time now for Great Day Law. It seems like everyone is using rideshare these days, but what happens if you get in an accident with an Uber?
We're here with lawyer Twilly from LA Law. You got a message from a Deirdre that reads, quote, "My daughter was at a graduation party and we sent an Uber to give her and a friend a ride to an after party. The Uber got into an accident. We weren't sure who's responsible, but the injuries are bad. Please help me with this process of getting this settled."
All right.
All right, so here we go. We're in an Uber.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they get into an accident.
Right. So it's going to depend on who's at fault for the accident. Was the Uber driver at fault for the accident, or was another vehicle at fault for the accident? So that is going to play a huge role in it. But we do have accidents where I just settled a case not that long ago where an Uber driver was distracted. The passengers in the back of the Uber were yelling at her to, like, "Hey, slow down," and she just rear-ended our client. Wasn't even paying attention, didn't brake, and so she is obviously at fault. Uber, if she's in the middle of a ride, which she was, will step into the place of her and will take care of it. Uber's carriers.
Uber's insurance carriers are the ones you're going to deal with, not the person's insurance.
Correct, because generally the way the policies are written is, let's say you have Acme Insurance Company as your insurance company. Normally when you drive around, if you're doing an Uber ride, that policy stops being in effect while you're during an Uber ride and then goes back into effect, once the ride is over with. So Uber has adequate coverage. Their insurance carriers that they engage have adequate coverage, and it's not usually an issue. But it could become an issue if the Uber driver is not at fault, somebody hits you, and they don't have adequate insurance. So, and then, you got to look at underinsured motorist carrier coverage and all kinds of stuff.
So again, maybe I missed something. I'm in an Uber.
Yep.
The Uber driver is distracted, gets into an accident. I get injured.
Yes.
Who am I suing? I'm suing.
You're suing the driver of the Uber, and their Uber's insurance carrier, James River, Liberty Mutual, will step in and cover that person with their policy. With
their policies.
Correct.
And similar, we were saying Uber, but if this was Lyft or something else.
Any rideshare
Or
company.
What about a yellow taxi,
Well, you don't want to, I can just say this from experience, you don't want to be involved in an accident with a yellow taxi. That's absolutely, it's very challenging to deal with, yes.
So it's not like an overarching yellow taxi company you're dealing with?
No.
Oh, okay.
Dealing with independent companies.
And unions, and it's
I got into an accident with a taxi driver once. It took me over 2 years to get the money back that I was entitled to.
And that sounds about right.
So an Uber, getting an accident in an Uber is actually better than a yellow taxi?
In my opinion, yes.
Okay. I mean, not that you ever want to get in an accident.
Correct, yes.
Okay. So, what do we do? Steps after, what can we do as the rider to make sure that we preserve our rights or do something? If we're in an Uber and we're in an accident, what should we do?
Listen, I'm a huge fan of rideshare companies, especially if you need to get somewhere safely. But if you're involved in an accident, you need to make sure the police are called. A lot of times, maybe the driver, if the Uber driver is at fault, they don't want to call the police.
You say, we're staying here, we're calling the police.
Yeah. Stay there, call the police, make sure it's documented by an independent third party.
If they decide they're leaving, you say, okay, I'm going to stay here and wait for the police to get here.
Correct.
Okay.
But, you get it documented by an independent third party, because I'm telling you, a lot of times stories change.
Yeah.
So if the police are there to document it, it's much more difficult to change the story. Okay? Because if I'm the Uber driver and I want to be dishonest about what happened, I'm going to say that somebody pulled out in front of me, and if the police doesn't come, it's not my fault. Now the carrier for Uber is going to fight and with whoever else say, no, my person's not at fault, and that fight is going to delay your recovery.
If I'm in, let's say Karen and I are in the Uber, is she a witness for me and I'm a witness for her?
Yes, because neither of you have a dog in that fight, other than to make sure that everything is documented. So, for example, if Kara was driving and you were the passenger, then she may have an incentive to tell a fib. But if you're both just passengers and you're victims of this, then yes, you're both
So take
good
pictures,
witnesses.
Take pictures, take video, take whatever you can at the scene on your phone so that you have that to explain.
Correct. And then contact a lawyer so that we can get the claims processes started for you.
Yeah, so especially if you're dealing with big insurance companies like that, good to have a lawyer on your side. It's, of
For
course,
sure.
always free to call you, and, you don't take any money unless you get some. So 860-595-3163, LALawCT.com.
All right. How's your golf game?
Getting better.
Is it getting better?
Slightly.
Don't lie to me. Okay.
It's getting
He
better.
might have an incentive to fib. No,
Right.
Have a great day, everybody.
Eyewitness News at 4 starts right now.